All right, we're going to get started. So, hello, I'm Lisa Hendrickson. I am most recently the Global Head of Partnership for S&P Global Sustainable One. I also have a background. I did 2 venture-backed tech startups. I was COO of one of the first sustainable design and manufacturing companies in New York City. I've worked with software product. I've worked with physical product, which actually breaks your brain from going from one to another. I am a returner to Austin. I met my husband here 20 years ago. He's a New Yorker. We lived and worked in New York for many years and came back Thanksgiving 2018 because we missed everybody. I am also co-founder of Austin Sustainability Professionals. We're a whisper network for people who are building the sustainable economy. Here in Central Texas, I'm an adjunct professor. Over at FIT in Manhattan, I teach the sustainable organization, purpose-driven company, and brand, customer pricing, and product coursework. I live in Buda with my husband, Felix, and our dog, Barbie. Some of her nicknames are Barbie Schnarby, Schnarblets, the Schnarbles. Barbie lost her marbles, it Schnarbles. So now you know just a little bit about me. I'd like to thank our sponsors. You should see that, but somehow you're not seeing that move. Hold on. There we go. Look at that. It's the magic of technology continuing to work. So we've been thanking the sponsors all day, but thank you, University of Texas and the Business School for it, Carnegie Mellon University, Pragmatic Institute, Launchpad Job Club. So I have a hypothesis about no matter where I've ended up, whether it is in physical product making, whether it is in software, whether it's in startup, whether it is in large corporate enterprise, almost everyone makes the same assumptions. Each believes counterparties' roles, work, and decisions are much simpler than they are. You know how when you call somebody and say, why can't that electrician just fix that right now? Why is there an intermittent problem? You know you'd fix it in an hour, and it's taking them 5. Why is that? Because we underestimate the complexity of other people's roles. Nascent understanding of pricing strategies underlie many of the problems that we have with product market fit and by misaligning business value with product features. We oftentimes make deep assumptions about if I like it and I would use it, well, then everybody would. And our approach to it would be very much aligned with my own assumptions of how I would like a product. And embedding product and commercial team members in product creation and updating of roadmaps, go-to-market activities, it helps us create empathy and understanding and makes a greater opportunity to better commercialize the good work of product makers. So this is going to be a story, really, I call it like a corporate work story, because even in a large corporation, it was surprising to me the same errors that I would see in logic and product making that you would see in a small, nimble team that didn't have enough resources appears on these large corporate teams that have plenty of resources. It's always surprising to me. So, by the way, I did make this with ChatGPT. I want you to know I picked the pajama material for it myself, and it was a total joy to do it. What happens when product and commercial aren't speaking to each other? And since we're such a small group, what do you think happens, you guys? Raise your hand. What happens when they're not talking? Lack of alignment. Total lack of alignment. Because nobody knows. One hand doesn't know what the other is doing. Who? Yes?
I have this analogy is there's lots of ponds out there that we can be fishing in, and product, and I'm going to break this out into more marketing and sales aren't talking to each other. They're fishing in different ponds. They're feeding different ponds.
I really love that. One of the things I'm going to tell, so my career, I was really told I was business strategist, right? And I've moved over into commercial roles and partnership roles. But oftentimes I've worked with people who say, I don't want to talk about that. If I'm not making money, I don't want to talk about it. And my thing is, like, if you don't talk about it, you're not going to make any money because we're going to roll things out to market that nobody cares about. Commercial not speaking to product also has them have a very nascent view of what product value actually is. And they think, I'm going to sell on 1, 2, or 3 points. And that's all they care to know about what happens with the product. And then also what happens is our go-to-market teams can't make go-to-market strategies and materials that help us launch this into the public in such a way that there is an education piece, which we always have to do with new product and new product features, such that they can be implemented by the people, by the end users they were meant for in the first place. So what happens when we're not I made that with ChatGPT also. Now, one of the things I want to say that happens is it's spelled magical with 2 I's. It misspelled it. And it could change it because I was like, please make all the animals smile. And it did. But it couldn't take the I, the extra I, in magical thinking. So I still had to export it and put it into Photoshop and, you know, max out, right, where it was. Anyway. Product thinks they are oftentimes breaking the code of Hammurabi, I find. There is a definite way that there is such a seriousness that we create in what this product is going to do. Earth-shattering product to end product. Okay, show me. Show me, right? Very rarely do we have those earth-shattering products. And what I want to say about your iPhone, one of the earth-shattering products that are paradigm breaking. iPhone. Before, you used to have this little flip phone, right? It used to be like this, and you'd have to text. It'd be like, A, beep, beep, beep. Like it took a really long time, right? But this phone was free if you signed a 2-year contract. Now, when Apple came to market, what they said is, we're going to charge you $4.99 for this, and we're going to compete against your little flip phone, right? This is free. This is $499. What was it that made people stand around the block to go get one of these and pay for something that traditionally you wouldn't pay for? I will tell you, this untethered the office. This, you had to work at your office. This gave you a calendar and it gave you email, and sure, you could take a picture. But it changed the nature of how we were able to work. That is paradigm breaking. Maybe once in a lifetime we get, if we're lucky enough, get to make this. Most of us are just making this, right? So we oftentimes overweight what we're doing with our products. Now, I'm not saying everybody in product is like me, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we have to look at the normalization of where we want to make inroads into the end users and the commercial. Commercial will see 1, 2, or 3 features and think, I can sell it. I can just sell it. And it's a short-sighted way that we go to market that way, thinking, right, in the same way of product people coming up with an idea, like I have a product, and because I like it, everybody will like it. And commercial thinks, I know 3 ways I can sell it, which means everybody's going to buy it. And this is really magical thinking that happens with us. And I'd like to suggest we have junior level conversations and senior level conversations around bringing things to market. Junior level conversation says, I like it. I went to the supermarket or I went to the Target and I tried to buy this thing and I looked on the shelves and there was nothing good. So I redesigned this thing and I think this is amazing. I made something for me, and now I'm going to go and commercialize this as a thing for everybody. Many product people start with that. Whether you come from a very large organization trying to bring in a new product to market, or you're an entrepreneur coming up with your own, I've got my own, $500 million idea. I've got my, my unicorn idea. Because we base it around what it is that we think we need or want. A senior level conversation comes from designing product around a persona or a user that we'd like to serve. And the reason why I say we need to start with those things, and we're going to go over some of that in pricing strategy, is that when we sell to everyone, we sell to no one. When we make things for everyone, we make things oftentimes for no one. So most times we come to market where we say, I've made a product, it cost $1, I'm going to charge $3, right? Cost and price. Then we assign what is the value to it, and then we're going to have to hunt out customers. I want to ask you a question. If you're making a product in Kansas City versus manufacturing a product in New York City, do you think there's a cost differential between manufacturing in Kansas City and New York City? Why would you then use the same equation? Cost me $1 and charge $3. Let's go to the bar, have a happy hour, we're good to go, right? Because that is a junior level conversation about where we're going to start. I am going to tell you, what's the magic solution? I'm not like the thing they won't tell you. This is the way we have a senior level conversation about building products. We start with customers. What is the value? What is the business value? Whether it's a consumer business-to-consumer product or a business-to-business product. What is the value we will define for this group of customers? And your customers, you want to look at in a B2B sense of what's the persona? Do they work out of the CTO office? Do they work out of Treasury? Do they work out of, right? All of these different offices, if we're out there to serve them in a particular way, right? Then we look at a pricing band. We know that there will be a willingness to pay to serve that value we are defining, right? And how do we know what that value is that people are willing to pay? Market research, market consultation. We actually talk to people. Right? And that's why not having commercial and product not talk to each other really doesn't work, because the commercial teams really are coming together having these conversations with the customer and with some of your best customers, right? Then we can determine, right, this price band, how much is our cost, because we're backing into what does our gross profit need to be, right? What's going to be an operating margin that we want? And then ultimately, what are the product schemas that we are going to fulfill in deriving and designing that value for customers? That is a senior level conversation on how do we design product and serve customers, right? Instead of saying, I had a great idea. This one I didn't make. I got it on Unsplash, but I just thought it was a really nice picture of these two people when product and commercial meet. You can decide. You know, what do you think, actually? So for me, I'm just going to tell you, product is on the right, commercial is on the left. I'm just saying. And I don't really care, because I just love the grittiness of the picture. So, I mean, I think like really having a collaborative approach to product and product upgrades or new feature sets has a greater chance of market success through these kinds of feedback loops. And I'm also going to share with you, McKinsey published this, and it's something that I ponder on quite often, and I really like this for larger groups. I love creating a core team to strategize before we ever say, hey, I'd love to make this product. I really want us to think, you know, I love the stories where they're like, HP, we're two guys in a garage. All we knew what we wanted to do is work together. We didn't know what we wanted to make. That is the same thing that I'd like for us to get back to when we have this core team conversation. Plus, it's really juicy to be like, okay, what do we want to do now? right? Who do we want to serve? What's the market value we can conjure up out there? And the other thing that I like about it is that, well, go ahead.
I was going to say, this resonates so well with me. I'm going to tell a real quick story, but I was talking to a law company, part of a large healthcare system, and they said, yeah, you should see our requirements reviews. We have 100 people sitting in the call, and I'm sitting here going like, my goodness, where's your core teams?
Right? Who gets to say inside of that, And I think one of the things that we forget, that core team could be great. Go out and have market consultations with your best customers. They will tell you what they need, where they are suffering, what they wish could happen, that you're not providing. And I also go back to this because there's, everybody's talking about AI now. Everything here is AI, and you could apply this to any AI product you would like. But one of the things that we're all noticing, and Microsoft included, with that huge, huge investment in OpenAI, is all of a sudden they're like, we're rushing to market. They're having a really hard time commercializing. They're having a really hard time determining what is business value. I'm wondering if they went and spent a whole lot of time developing product without talking to commercial. It kind of seems so. I don't have an inside view on that, but it kind of seems to me. Right? Customer-centric means creating unique business value consistent with customer needs. Right? We have to deeply understand what that persona needs, what those use cases are that we imagine them, right? And use cases are what helps us also educate the customer. Sometimes, and Steve Jobs has said, and I know everybody busts out his, we have to tell people what they want, right? And sectors also need different things. Commercial teams that are most associated with the client, right, asking for those market consultations will tell you if you are ready or not ready for market. Before you say, I'm going to do a soft launch and then ask people, no, ask people before you do the soft launch. It will stop you from making that misstep. Now, product feedback, these are roadmaps that I see all the time. This is really like a project management. It's not a strategy roadmap. Over here, and I love looking at it because all of these things, there is not one place for anyone in commercial to say, I don't know about that. Do you want to reskin the checkout? Is it not working? Should we change how that looks? Really? I mean, I think we've had, less than dumpage of the cart, and in an abandoned cart. Maybe you should leave it that way, So when we put in product roadmap feedback loops at defined intervals with commercial, building them into our process and into that roadmap, it normalizes engagement with your commercial teams. And the reason why we want to do this is at the end of the day, everybody would like to get paid. Everybody would like a bonus. Everyone would like, I'm not kidding you, a raise. We really like to have great benefits. And guess who brings that in? Top line revenue. And if we don't make things that people want to use and our salespeople don't want to sell, it's really not going to turn out great. It may be satisfying, like I made this and I really liked it myself, but it doesn't mean that everybody else does. With that, I want to open things to questions. I know we're rushing. We have just a couple minutes. Any thoughts, comments? Or we could, yes.
So my question is a little bit on purpose. I hear you and I totally agree with you. In your experience or just even hearing from other people, I think one of the struggles that I experience specifically is how do you bring those two together in a cohesive way while addressing the needs of the overall business? Because, for example, for us commercial concerned about their buyers. On the product side, I'm concerned about our users. And those are sitting in two different buckets.
Yeah.
And like we have this competition of who's more important. And so I agree with you, and I'm sure that this is a very agreeable assertion that we have to come together. But how does it actually work?
No, it's totally a great question. One of the things that I think is most important is not building these things in a silo. We must connect corporate strategy, overarching outcomes that they're building, and then connect that down with our activities. You may have a 2-day offsite. You may be scheduling. That's what your feedback loop may look like, right? This is how we're coming together. Yes, you want on-time delivery and all those things, but what you really want to make sure of is that we're speaking to, right? Hey, we've gotten market consultation and confirmation of these assumptions. We see that this is what's showing up. When you inculcate that into our overarching, here's our strategy, here's how we operationalize that strategy. And by the way, the only thing that connects strategy and operations is a plan, right? And by saying this is how we're going to do these things, is being able to put that into place. Then also creating structures. How do we have task teams? And this is a little off target, but you know, when I got to the role of global head of partnership, the first thing I did was a 100-day listening tour. I went for global resources to hear, why is this an anomaly? Why is this fragmented? Why doesn't partnership look the same all over? I learned like, hey, in this country, we put out a press release just at the beginning of talks, which is crazy to me, right? But that's what they like to do in South Korea, right? They like to make an announcement that you're talking about something before you get to like that just wasn't something that we would do. And I was like, oh, but that's how business normally happens. So like being able to listen and learn across these spaces. And then I made a global steer co, right? How do we all have time to speak together to make this work and to understand each other? So being able to normalize that across a global platform, and then being able to take that information and put it into project, product, right? Channel strategy, build out, right? So it starts like this. We narrow it in, normalize it, and then it operationalizes it. So strategy, planning, operations. And that's how I did it. Yeah.
Sorry for adding so much here, but
No, you're great.
I love to think about from the customer perspective is that customers, business to business, most specifically have levels of outcomes.
Yep.
Some of those outcomes are owned by your senior level decision makers and buyers. Some of those outcomes are owned by users. And when I'm improving a user experience, a user outcome, I should be able to see in a hierarchy, how does that connect to one of the buyer's outcomes? As much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you so much. That also resonates with me. So one of the things that, with my team, I've been hearing lots of concerns of actually bringing the teams together, is that commercial teams, specifically sales, typically, it seems to us, think the short term, right? Like they are talking about like, I need to make revenue, I need to hit my quota, and not this year. So however, if you're talking about like product innovation, sometimes it might be longer term. And that's kind of where there's a lot of tension sometimes between the go-to-market team or commercial teams and the product teams of what exactly do you want to build right now? Like, should it be something that is going to be generating value right now and over-indexing on that and losing sight of something that is going to be a 3-year build time, but then we potentially will be able to make more money. So kind of what's your take on that and have you experienced?
Yeah, that's great. So, you know, hopefully the team is large enough that your short-term tactical people are out selling what is already sellable. What we are oftentimes talking about is standing up those who have more strategic sales involved. This is looking at long-term action plans. It could even be a 6-month window. Usually we go into an 18-month window, right? So when we went to that circle, that's the core team who's deciding, bringing in the people who need to hit their quota by the end of the month, usually aren't going to be valuable for what you're listening for because it doesn't help them do their job. What will help them do their job is have more conversations with the go-to-market team to make sure that the materials that they have as leave behinds or webinars or other things that they have can educate potential customers, because if go-to-market does that right, they can do a pre-sale up to 80% of the sale to get that customer ready, where they only have to do 20% of the work that then has, in the selection process and then close the business. If we have go-to-market for those tactical people working well, they will be happy all day long. That's all they want to have happen. They're not the people who should be sitting in the core team.
So you're talking about when that core team needs to be split. Out of sales, out of marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else?
I don't know, when I think of the core team, I feel like I look at it more like how Steve's job did it. They had a separate core nimble, I call it internal nimble team that was creating new products. They were like separate, they weren't part of the other teams, right? The other ones doing the other products that they had.
Sometimes companies will do that. Sony is very siloed in their different approaches for sectors. Apple still has a very unique approach. Disney is a distributor approach where they make little business units inside of, if there was a table where everybody says there'd be a finance person, a salesperson, a product person, right? So they make these little entrepreneurial sets inside where there's many different structures you can take on to be able to, for different companies to effectively look at carving out who does engagement with those kinds of products. Anybody else? Nope. Thank you so much for your listening. I really appreciate it. Oh, I think I was supposed to do this. Wait. Oh, wait. It's been delightful. You can connect with me on LinkedIn if you would like to. It's just Lisa Hendrickson, or you can see me at lisahendrickson.me.